morning team. My spirit's really on me. They want this going faster. They're not waiting for some undefined time for which to get what they need to say, so they're going to say things as they need to say them. Concept of the people is what Xyy knows itself as. I'm burdened with that most of the time, being a Xyy. I belong to something greater than myself, bigger than myself. I am great. We are all great through being part of this great thing. The people. The people can be what you think of as a tribe, a group, a culture. That's fairly standard. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. But it's more than that. It is concrete but very small, such as a family unit, two lovers, a parent and a child, anything where there's another person involved other than you. It can also go completely conceptual, which is humanity. I am part of humanity. There is humanity. Humanity is. Okay, so these people are supposed to be productive, and touching back with Xyy, harmonious. They're supposed to be productive, but harmoniously. That's their charge. Our people, when I mean our people, I of course mean pretty much all the humans of Earth, have fucked this up royally. So that's how Xyy knows itself. So what does that mean? Well, there's some constant qualities, 3 of them, and they come from that way of knowing itself that Xyy has. The first is personal connection / sense of community. Number 1, the power flow, that personal connection I mentioned, that is out and about. The moods of other people, they are part of me, in a sense, that there's a human story going along, and all humans are in it, hence the people, and I'm a part of that. So when I see the people, I am instantly connected to them in that way, even if I don't like them. Even then, I'm still connected. I feel those mood shifts, even when I'm not there, as do all people who have Xyy, which is all humans, and then it gets more so the higher up in your priority it is. This is a conceptual a concept of the people. So similar to like hope for Xyy is sort of like the first step away from the purity of the concept. The purity of the people would be productive and harmony. So how do you know if that's happening? Connecting. Personal connection when you're out and about, and when you're even not out and about, or I'll start with that, even when you're not out and about and you're by yourself, the sense of community, if you use Xyy, will, or especially if Xyy is on your conscious 4 or in your near side too, especially. There is a connecting, a personal connection, even when using the subjective discernment powers, whether it's Xyy or Xyy. That never goes away. Thus, even when we're out and about, and say for example you're a Xyy or a Xyy, and you're not even really connecting, trying not to, there'll still be a sense of community. This creature matters in the scope that humans matter, that people matter. Even people who are racist and who use Xyy, they are connecting to this person in a warped concept of the people. And thus their sense of community is unduly fucking evil to other people, because they register them as people outside of the people. People not in the community. This relates to all the discernment powers, like with Xyy and Xyy. Perfection, harmony. Imperfection, discord, knowing the difference. That means because there is a connection, whether you want or not, there is a awareness. For example, let's say I see a person's mood. First I see a person. I see a person, I connect. I just do that because I have Xyy. Then there is connect / put them in some sort of contextual place in my sense of community. That's what the first power flow is. I connect, and what does that mean in my community? Whatever my concept of community is. We hope it's a really good one. We hope your concept of people isn't shit, like most models are. Because of that, let's say now that's been connected to, some sort of contextualness has been given. The mood of the creature, the mood of the human. And I say creature, why do I say that? Because if you're really like myself, you have a lot of Xyy or something, there can be a giving over of that sense of the people, including within it things like anything you could personify. There is that connection to pet, a vehicle, especially one that you take a lot of pride in or you like. Yeah, so the connection could even be to a tree, or I guess in the most abstract sense, Gaia, and things like that. Anything you could personify can be included in the concept of the people. If you personify Gaia enough, for example, that becomes like a person to you. If it becomes a person, then it is one of the people, and therefore the sense of community and the personal connection relates to it, if it is personified. And that's beautiful. Want to see fucking ugly? Fucking ugly is the reverse. Not only do you not see, like, you know, the cosmos and Gaia personified, you don't even see all humans personified. You don't see most animals personified. You don't see the trees, the other things that are creatures of this earth with us. None of them as well. So if you have Xyy, you use it poorly. Most humans use their Xyy poorly. That's why I distrust most people's Xyy. Social awareness goes with that. Because I consider the creature's mood, their state, then there is an awareness of when it shifts. So let's say another person shows up and they react positively or negatively to that new person showing up. I'm aware of that. I'm eating my dinner, but I'm fucking aware of that. It makes you aware. I can note how it makes you aware, or how it gets your attention, because I often am trying to ignore humans. Ritualizing. Okay, collective values. What does that mean? If I connect to a person and give them some context within my sense of community, then number two, I consider they're going left, they're going right, their mood is going up, it's going down, there's 2 of them, there's 4 of them, there's 3 of them, there's men, there's women, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm socially aware of those changes, those shifts. Those shifts have ways about them. They can be ways that are pure spirit form, Xyy, or they can be ways that are more mean, Xyy. So are the people doing it? Could be me. That's the thing too, is I could actually turn the concept of people on myself, as all Xyy users can, even if there's no one else around. Both in talking to imaginary friends, but also and personifying pets and so forth. But also the judging. I mean, it's a discernment power, but the rating, Xyy and Xyy both have a very strict rating system. That's what they do in an external way. And so as those things are happening, or even the concept of them happening, there is a way they're supposed to be done. And that way is, on that particular situation, for example, would be a ritual. So that's how it's supposed to be done or could be done, and therefore that's how collective values, the people do it. Therefore, other people are either doing it correctly, meaning they are part of the people, or they could be. Maybe we should include them part of the people. They seem to do rituals correctly. Or they're not doing rituals correctly, so they're not one of the people. Or they are one of the people, but maybe they shouldn't be anymore because they don't do the rituals right. They don't subscribe to the values of the people. So Xyy decides as things are unfolding if that is the correct way. Similar how Xyy does, but Xyy is more in real time. Xyy is more like planning. Not a classical way to think of like planning and scheduling like Xyy would, but organizing how things are going to flow and noticing that one situation tumbles into another situation, tumbles into another. Those are all rituals, and noting, these rituals are going correctly. Oh, these rituals are not going correctly. And planning for rituals. There's rituals coming up. We need to make sure we have everything ready so the rituals for the people go correctly. And we have productiveness with harmony. Productiveness with harmony. So that's basically in the psyche what Xyy advocates for. It's all about the people. My Xyy is all about the people. I'm going to film later a whole thing on why my kind are so angry, the deep anger of Xyy Alpha. I still organize my world based on a concept of humanity. I simply have to make you people better. Okay, so how do I make you better? How do I know what better is? That would be the second trio. And again, this relates to the other discern powers in that this is a bit of detection. I'm going to detect or plan or figure out what's going on. How's that done? Well, first one, Power Flows. Number one was personal connection / sense of community. Number two, personal consideration / social awareness. Number three, ritualizing / collective values. Now we're number four. Tribal relationships and dynamics. I stopped calling it culture and this and that. That all falls under tribal. Anytime the correct thing to do, the way you would rate something, is based on the way it is done, that usually is something to do with Z or Xyy. So in this case, the way it is done is based on some sort of tribal thing. Now, you can think of tribal as something as small as a clan, like that kind, a tight team, a crew, all the way up to a polis, a city-state, the people, the concept of the people, all the way up to all humans. That it can go that big, and it can even go out to like, we're all energy beings, the planet, and so forth. But I'm not gonna get all there because that's kind of how Xyy affects it, and that's not super relevant right now. But the main relevancy is that there is a way it is done by the people, and those are the tribal dynamics. How the people do things, or could do things. So how the people do things or could do things for productiveness while being harmonious. Now, that gives an awareness of what's going on. So for example, the first one, there's just general awareness. There's the personal connection, personal consideration, and collective values. That's sort of like how Xyy is wired. It's how it interprets information, because all the discern powers interpret information. So the constant qualities are how Xyy simply interprets information as an instrument. Now, it's got a lot of intelligence to it, a lot of Xyy intelligence. All the pod powers have a great deal of intelligence at doing what they do. So how does it decide how things are going or could go? Well, tribal dynamics and relationships. So you're looking at those people and there's 2 of them, 4 of them, some men, some women, whatever, and those ratios are changing, moods are changing, demographics are changing. And as this is going on, you're not just connecting, not just aware. You're not just rating it with collective values. You are, if you're observing it, you are like judging an event that you're very aware of, like a critic who's very accomplished looking at a figure skater and watching how that goes and knowing everything about figure skating. And that's what Xyy does. Some people do it better than others based on how the Xyy is augmented, but Xyy believes it knows how the people should do things. There is a way of pushing it to make the tribal dynamics and relationships go in the good direction when there is inertia. This is very different than the subjective discernment powers. Xyy and Xyy do not like inertia. They don't like staying still. The complete opposite of the subjective discernment, where they try to stay on the target. Xyy will push, and even just observing, Xyy is aware of what is making that dynamic shift. As that's going on, Xyy will start to take detective work of why did that mood change? What can make it change somewhere else? Then also, sort of like, not the defensiveness back here of the subjective discernment, but sort of like a preemptive defensive, is going out to meet the enemy. If the other was positive, was like noticing how things are trending positively for the tribe and why that's going on and how you could push that to make it go more so, and noticing what's negative on the tribe, why the tribe is shrinking or in power, for example, or shrinking in good energy, or shrinking in members or loyalty or any of those kind of things. It'll notice those, and it'll ask, it'll start to push, and it's got a similar thing to these where there's a vibratory effect. Is Xyy, like Xyy, needs to have contacts. It'll begin to push on the tribal dynamics to feel the push back. And they uses that to understand why the good is good and the bad is bad. It's kind of all at once there. So for these, it often has to do more with size, and that relates to the next power flow. Is that concept, as before, was very large, going with people and the tribe and the dynamics there, but it can be brought into interpersonal relationships and dynamics. And this is a really important one to note because it can as I mentioned before, personify inanimate objects. It can personify creatures like animals and plants and planets and so forth. Also, it can have a relationship, and this is again in some tricky area, but it's why the Xyy, for example, are so good at the spirit forming. It can be used to talk with creatures inside you. So it understands why dynamics move the tribe one way or the other out here, but it also understands why it does so in here, in an abstract sense, an abstract Xyy. For Xyy, there should be a smooth funneling, or maybe funneling is the wrong word, but connection between the tribal dynamics and the interpersonal dynamics. When there isn't, that's an issue. And that brings up number 6, which is etiquette and diplomacy. The subjective discerners expect stress to come to it. The objective discernments expect stress moving forward. So you're going to try to move forward once you have understood the tribal dynamics correctly. So that's why you're wired, and now you're going to try to understand these tribal dynamics going on and the interpersonal dynamics. And it should be kind of one thing, but there's going to be clashes. There's going to be clashes between the interpersonal needs of small groups within the people, the entire people. There's going to be, so always the smaller subgroups, there can be conflict with their needs and wants and fears. And as it goes up to the larger concept of the people, there can be conflicts. Also, even within one sphere, within the interpersonal sphere or within the larger tribal sphere, there are always factions. So that's one thing Xyy just understands, similar to Z does. There are factions always in the dynamic, and as you move forward, you'll be going from one track to another of these factionary forces. And again, the goal is to be productive, move forward, but with harmony. So how do you do that? Etiquette/diplomacy. So that is what it'll look for in the detection phase, is what are the tribal dynamics? What are the interpersonal dynamics? And it can't go interpersonal to tribal, it can go either way. But once it has both those, so therefore it has all the dynamics it feels of the people, it'll start to notice how they're clashing with each other. And it will decide how to deal with that. Who's right, who's wrong? Does this need to be an argument? Can we make it not an argument? Is there any way to make these factionary forces that are trending not clash, or to ride the stronger ones so that the lesser ones don't bother you? That's what diplomacy and etiquette's about. How is it done? Just like up here, ritualizing collective values, there's a basic understanding of how it is done. Now we're talking about how is it done when it's in action. Because when it's in action, there's always going to be clashes. So how do we keep as much productivity while keeping harmony? Etiquette and diplomacy. Now, it raised his hand for personal consideration, personal connection / sense of community, personal consideration / social awareness, and ritualizing / collective values. Like, look, we need to be about that. Yeah, we need to be about that so we can be the ultimate people. All right. So the psychic's like, okay, that sounds cool. Why don't you go look on that? You tell the psych, kind of like a department, get some psychological resource. Like, okay, spend that. So what's it gonna spend it on? Detection. It will detect tribal relationships and dynamics, interpersonal relationships and dynamics. We have the whole globe of the people dynamics here. And then in that, there are all these trending energies, and they obviously clash like waves. They're in there, one production house of another production house, one tribe of another tribe, one faction of another faction. Can these factions be combined into one faction? Can there be a hierarchy established between them without it? Is that the proper thing? Maybe if someone would come in and say this is a proper hierarchy, it would take away the stress. So that's what Xyy looks to do for there. Now, that is what it's looking for. Now, how's it going to do this? It's seeing these things, it understands the tribal dynamics now, it understands the interpersonal dynamics, and it understands the etiquette and diplomacy that would most likely need to be employed. So it sets itself that way. When it does its detective work, etiquette and diplomacy is part of the detective work. It's not an add-on. That, as Xyy is understanding the tribal dynamics and the interpersonal dynamics and relationships, etiquette just comes in there. Just like as personal connection and consideration, that way of being, just having that way of being automatically implies ritualizing collective values, a way it is done. Now, we're gonna make action. First thing, Power Flow 7 is team building / shepherding. Team building, again, it's kind of when you're out and about. Oh, it can be either way. Actually, both can be out and about. So what it basically means is using the detective work of tribal relationships dynamics, interpersonal relationships and dynamics, and etiquette/diplomacy to figure out how to put energy in and make whatever group, team, tribe, interpersonal relationship you're working on grow. Yes, so it's kind of like relationships and dynamics. You want the relationship to grow, to get stronger, larger, more beautiful, more cohesive. But there's also /shepherding. That goes with dynamics, movement, pushing. Is not only do you want the tribe, team, crew, whatever to get larger, tighter, stronger, more beautiful, smarter, yada yada. In order to do that, there is in between themselves, but they also have to go certain places, do certain things, do certain rituals in order to keep getting larger, stronger, wiser, etc. So that's shepherding. So not only is there, okay team, let's do these things together to make ourselves tighter and wiser and stronger, but while we're doing that, we need to move over here, we need to go up that hill, we need to go to this land, we need to start this company, we need to put this practice into play so that the team building can be as strong as it can. So there's team building in place /shepherding, which is where the team or tribe needs to go so that can continue to go. That's one power flow. Team building /shepherding. That's the first thing it's going to do. Now, when it goes to make that, how does it deal with the fact that Xyy, for example, there's inertia. There's a desire in humans innately to not move. All humans have it in some degree of priority, but all humans have that. So how does Xyy deal with people or a person or a person, people, or the people, any of those? How does it deal with it when they don't want to move, or the team wants to grow, or they don't want to grow or move in the proper way, or they want to grow or move in an improper way? How do you deal with that? How do you get them back on track? Again, productivity while keeping harmony. Persuasion /charm. You appeal to the positive in a person's psyche of what they would want and explain how that can be done if they go a certain way. This can be used just to charm a lady. People think, oh, charm, persuasion, but it's bigger than that. It's used in boardrooms to sell people on big investments. That's how investments get done, is you are persuading a person that the position they have previously held is not the best one, but for some good reason. It doesn't mean that you were bad or stupid, you just didn't know or didn't have this whatever, and now you do. And what you would get from going this direction is something you want. So persuasion, charm come naturally from personal connection, personal consideration, collective values, interpersonal relationships, etiquette, all that, team building. All that way of being makes for a way of trying to move people, to curb them, to halt them in a way that is the most productive with harmony. Hence there's often an attempt by those who are strong Xyy users to not crush an enemy, but to convert them, to turn them. That's a big difference, although both the objective servant powers are extremely forward. They put a lot of energy forward and they try to make things go the way they want. That's a notable difference in how they're doing it, is Xyy will go for a win-win, as opposed to Z, which goes to win-lose. Not that one's better than the other, but it's a different psychology. So Xyy is going to attempt to win by explaining to the other person, people, or the people that we can win if we do this, and making that very attractive so that other options, which are more negative to the Xyy user's way of thinking, become less desirable. I'll put that charm is the more friendly form of persuasion, but persuasion can have a very harsh angle to it. A lot of times people think that Xyy is always so warm, and that means friendly, but warm can mean rough. Part of persuasion can be to lessen from a no position, hopefully, although oftentimes it cannot be if the Xyy user is not using it correctly, but to ridicule or put down that other way. But there's always there's a scale there, there's a sliding scale. A proper Xyy should always start with most positive of, if we do this together, or if you guys would do this or whatever, the payout, the return for that would be awesome. That's the best way for Xyy way of things to get people to do things. If they won't, then there can be a trying to persuade them about the weakness in where they're going, how that would not be positive, how they wouldn't be a good person if they did that. Persuasion can be used that way, but it should be charm / persuasion. Charm person to go a way that you think would be better for them and everyone else, and then once they go that way, they'll realize and thank you. Or just persuading them that they have to go this way, that there's no other choice, or that they would be a bad person if they didn't, or that the idea or way they were going is silly or stupid or evil or bad or lesser in some way. Number 9, integrity / code of conduct. What gives the Xyy users, they feel the right to do that, is whatever their concept of people is, informs on their concept of sense of community, of social awareness, of collective values, of tribal relationships and dynamics, of interpersonal relationships and dynamics. It informs on etiquette, diplomacy, on how you shepherd, on how you persuade, what's allowed, what's cool and what's not cool as far as persuading, what's in a social moral context, what is legal, what's a foul. Does that make sense? And so Xyy's very concerned about, wait a minute, that's a foul for itself and for anyone else. And so by holding everyone to that standard, it should therefore flow into the 9th. Their standard is their personal integrity and their code of conduct is correct. I'll actually put code of conduct / integrity, and this is why. Code of conduct, the first part of that one, is simply that whatever you hold others who are the people, that they must conduct themselves in this way in order to be proper and all these other things, you yourself must have that standard, at least, if not higher than anyone else. / integrity. Now, where does that come in? It goes back to etiquette and diplomacy, how there is understanding that there is going to be, in the way people are, a conflagration of factions. That's just how the people work. As a concept, the people work as factions. At the simplest, it's families. A clan is made up of 20 families. Then you have 20 factions. That's just, Xyy understands that's just the way it is. In fact, if you have a family, my family, in our immediate family, there was 5 of us, 5 factions. That's just the way it works. It doesn't matter where you go. If you get all psychological, Xyy on you, I go in my head, Daryu, other, Fumasta, factions, factions. Okay, the Mazus. Okay, so as far as Xyy is concerned, there's really nowhere you go that the people, whatever the concept is, isn't made up of factions. There's a way of keeping the factions together and unifying them. That is ritualizing / collective values. If there's going to be dynamics impinging on each other, what is the way that is handled? How do you handle that? Well, there's a hierarchy to it, there's a ranking to it, there's a way it's done. So when there is going to be impingement, there's like impingement management, and that's etiquette / diplomacy. Now, it's going to get rough. Etiquette / diplomacy won't be sufficient. We're now engaged, and now the dynamics are coming. There's going to be a clash. Because having a code of conduct so strong implies there will be clashes sometimes, because your code of conduct may differ from your people and other people, or even if your people is all people, your concept is coming from your faction. That's important to understand. Even if you are one of the people, you're a faction of the people, and you must understand that, and a good Xyy user will, and therefore you have to know that when factions clash and etiquette/diplomacy will not suffice, my code of conduct is what I hold to. Sometimes I will need to befriend someone I thought was going to be my enemy. If my code of conduct says that this person now has done bop, 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 they're now part of the tribe, they're part of the tribe. My code of conduct includes that. If a person, or a Xyy user, if they've done wrong, they become villain, then they're out of the tribe, even if they're your friend, a good friend. Because the code of conduct demands that. Where integrity comes in is oftentimes this situation is not one that the people have faced before. Like maybe like Xyy, they've never seen this kind of thing before, or Xyy. There's no record of anything of this intensity or duration or specificity. So there's nothing to go with. These are like compasses, these are like steering wheels. It steers in those situations based on integrity. Trying to approximate, to stay with the code of conduct, the spirit form of the code of conduct. So the code of conduct is actually what you know, that based on the people and how the people do things, how it is done, how you do things. But then something comes up like cloning. How do the people deal with cloning? There's no Xyy record of that. There's, at some point, there's no Xyy guess. So there's no log, there's no guess. So what do? You're in action, and now you're in the moment. I use cloning, that's a bad one, probably because that's long term. Something maybe. Maybe they're fine. Anytime you have to make a steering call, a banking call, Xyy and Xyy both are going forward, and to make banking calls left and right so they don't crash. So when you are presented with two options, both of which are extremely appealing, or both of which are extremely unappealing, that causes stress. A decision must be made so that stress can be released. And often that can be done by ritualizing / collective values. That tells you how to do it, how to understand it. If there's going to be some ugliness involved, it's really a close call, it's tight, use etiquette diplomacy. If there's no precedent for this, you go with integrity, which is like a feel, it's a vibe. It's a feeling of, I'm going to go this way, even though this is like, I don't know what's going on here, it's unprecedented, but I think I can explain. It's a form of articulation. I believe I can explain to myself and my children and others in the tribe and the people why I made that decision. I have some sort of code of conduct argument of why I banked that direction on that call, so that people and myself first feel that my heart was in the right place. So there's no precedent, if there's no tribal dynamics or interpersonal dynamics that's in place or thought up with Xyy, it's not there in any way. I went this way, I made this judgment on this case because of this. And that should ring true to everything else of the people. And often if it rings true correctly, it is heroic, and then the people will adopt it. And that will be how it is done in the future. You will have invented or been the first for the people to do that. Or maybe the first of people not to do it, but to do it that well, to have taken it that far. Made like Xyy, you've broken the record. You've taken it, that was the record, and now you've gone much further. Or maybe you've gone Xyy in a totally different direction. But either way, something of a heroic standard has been put down if the integrity was kept under stress. And discernments are built to deal with stress and make decisions on how to go with them. Next, the human dynamics and relationships is the overall theme of Xyy. Get hold of one thing, is that human dynamics and relationships. What are the relationships that humans have with one another? Mother, child, brothers and sisters, employer, employee, all these kinds of relationships. You can think of student and teacher, friend and foe, comrade, all those kinds of things. They're all part of human relationships, which comes from the concept of people. All those multitude of spirit forms that we've kind of talked about here, this power flow, are all within the concept of people. And the human dynamics and relationships are basically all of them and how they work together, with an eye on being productive with harmony. But productive is the key thing. It wants the people to move. It is aggressive. Like Xyy is aggressive. It wants forward moving, wants flags forward. So it wants productive. But while the team being built, while the shepherding going on, while the dynamics getting sweeter and stronger, that's what it wants. The caring is the distinct signal, for example, third year of mojo reading, that Xyy gives off. And the higher up in the psyche it is, the more pronounced that is, being most pronounced with the Xyy alpha. And this is because, I can tell you, and I'm not even Xyy alpha, because the personal connection, the social awareness, the collective values, the tribal relationships, interpersonal relationships, blah, 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 it's impossible to not care. In fact, the only way you can not care is dispassion. It's Xyy, it's modulator. It takes another power to do that. Unless something stops it, Xyy is going to constantly care. In fact, it always cares what's going on with the people. Again, like myself, even when we're by ourselves, it'll care about the concept of humanity. How's humanity doing? It's important to me. Wish it wasn't, but it is. In discussing or other topics, it will care the direction that information is going. It's very concerned or cares a great deal that the way things are going, the direction things are going, the new information coming in, all those kinds of changes and updates are going to be productive for the people, its people. And it feels that the rest of the pod powers don't do that. And the rest of the pod powers feel that Xyy cares a lot. And it does. Compared to the pod powers, it cares a lot about the people and simply the concept of people. Humanity. Xyy cares a great deal about humanity and how humanity is doing. Whatever scope they give to that, to humanity. Reason my kind are angry, deep rage. Well, let's go with some simple stuff. The environment, B, which can never be gotten away from, is constantly whacking us, kryptonite stick style, to pay attention to it. So there's that. Whether we know it or not, that puts us at an innervated handicap as compared to all the mojos. And so our Xyy naturally picks that up, all the Xyy alpha, that we are operating with less energy than other people, and somehow that's not fair. So there's just a base anger there. Next, as I mentioned with the people, my concept of the people is fucking brilliant and awesome. Real people, not as much so. They could be, but they generally aren't. So that's the Xyy alpha have to put up with, is that the people and systems they put their stuff into just are disappointing. They're not going to be as good as it was in here. What else? Angry at ourselves. Why? Because I should do a better job at translating from in here to out here, and I never do good enough of a job. I take it, it's awesome, I start speaking it, and I get confusion or whatever from people, and I guess I didn't do it good enough. So, whoosh, whoosh. What else? Whoosh, whoosh. Relentless. It never stops. It never gives me any time to rest. No Xyy Alpha gets any time to rest. Which is funny because we are often seen by some people as being lazy or so forth. Another reason we're angry, because we generally beat people's ass at anything we do. I just can't keep doing it repetitively. I hate that shit. Busy work, just look busy. Oh, that's just like the lamest thing ever. The idea that I am crushing major calories in here, as all Xyy Alpha are when they do their thing, but it doesn't look like I'm doing anything active, and therefore I'm not doing anything. That's really obnoxious. I have to go all the way to my polar power to create something in order for people to get it. Sometimes my friends get it with Xyy, but a lot of times they don't. Even my friends, I'll explain it and they'll kind of get it, and then if that's enough, then we'll go to V, and then Xyy will have the same thing. The system will kind of get it, kind of. And you have to decide to yourself, is that enough? Is the system of people kind of getting it enough juice for you to slog out and go to V? That's what we do. It's always a slog for Xyy. And I can't say it other way. People are, systems, everything is basically stupid. I don't know any Xyy or Z thing that I've seen in my entire life, and I think most strong Xyy Alpha will agree with me, that I ever thought cool. Either it was just stupid, or like take Young or any other kind of thinkers like that. It was smart for how far it got, and then everything after that is fucked up. So that's pretty much all that's out there, just complete stupidity or brief moments of brilliance followed up by excessive stupidity. Loneliness. I don't know if Xyy Alpha get this with systems. Maybe they do. The systems keep them company, because Xyy, the people, keep them company. Although I have people, and I think Xyy had the systems, Xyy had the systems, they don't really keep us company. So there's a feeling that we're missing out somehow. There's always that vague feeling that I'm missing something. It's hard to shake that feeling, and when that feeling goes on for forever, and you're a kid, it only has to go on as a little baby. That shit only needs to go on for, probably the first few weeks of being a baby. You haven't learned to speak yet, but already this environment, you and I we're not getting along environment. That's number two. Superhuman effort. All Xyy Alpha can do superhuman shit if they're strong ones. And yet they still have a hard time with daily life. That's angering. How come I can beat just about everyone and everything I ever decide to put my mind to, and yet this world and me don't get along? I feel impinged on most of the time, as most Xyy Alpha do. And then my rage, I get angry and I smash shit, and I am angry at myself that I smashed it, because I wished I hadn't lost control. So I'm angry at my loss. I'm angry at my lack of anger control. Because I have so much anger, I can't control it. I'm angry about that. And then I use my anger, and shit happens, but disgusts me. Even Xyy, who can be, kind of draconian pricks a lot of times to their underlings, still, I think they'd rather the employee, all my Xyy that are strong, I know, would say this, they'd prefer the person who's just not stupid. That would be the better thing. And then you smash on them, and then everyone thinks you're awesome. Xyy or Xyy, the system responds to that being smashed, or the people that respond. And you're like, why didn't you just respond because of why I articulated it to you? Why did I have to smash on the system? Why did I smash on the people? We shouldn't have to do that. So there's another reason. I think it's enough for right now. They're getting riled up. I have to go talk to them now. Well, yay. Xyy Power Flow done.